Welcome to the Credit Edge. Ideas on time and working for a living. Let's get started.
Today, we're doing something a little different. It's more of a reflection, really. We're going to be doing a thorough analysis of a philosophy that, well, it asks us to completely reconsider the most fundamental trade we make every single day, every hour.
Yeah, the one we don't even think about.
Exactly. We're deep diving into the Credit Edge perspective on what it calls the price of time. This is a framework that looks at finance, but not as, charts and numbers.
Not as math.
Not as math at all. It sees it as a direct metaphor for our lived experience. And to really ground this whole discussion, I want to start where the source material itself starts, with a passage that just cuts right through everything. It says, "Time is the first currency we ever trade. Long before money, markets, or credit, there was effort. A piece of our life exchanged for something we needed."
And just that first line, it immediately changes the entire conversation, doesn't it?
It really does.
It just strips away all the jargon, all the complexity of, modern economics, and it forces you to look at the one single thing we actually have that we can't get more of.
Our time.
Our time.
Yeah.
It sets the tone perfectly. This deep dive isn't going to be about stock tickers or market predictions. It's about sovereignty. Sovereignty over your own personal hours.
So our mission today is precisely that. To analyze this core concept, that money, in its truest sense for most of us, it's just a receipt. It's a receipt for time that you've already given away.
Oh, proof of transaction.
A proof of transaction.
Yeah.
We're going through this philosophy of the credit edge, which really recasts financial awareness as life awareness. It's about seeing the cost first before you even think about celebrating the earnings.
And for you, the listener, if you're someone who trades hours for a wage, it's so important to get the grounding of this text. This is not some high theory from an ivory tower.
Not at all.
It is anchored completely in working class reality. It talks about the daily struggles, the shifts, the bills, the constant lack of time, that feeling of always running on empty.
We've all been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is really meant to be a quiet conversation. The whole point is to help you see this system clearly, humbly, and without any judgment. Just see it for what it is.
Okay, so let's really unpack this core thesis. It's incredibly direct. The source just lays it out there. You don't clock in for money. You clock in for hours you'll never get back.
Right.
Therefore, money is fundamentally, purely stored labor.
And calling it stored labor, think about what that does psychologically.
That changes everything.
It changes the entire emotional weight of a pay statement.
Yeah.
When you see your gross income, society tells you to see potential.
Right.
You see what you can buy, what you can do.
That's a future.
But this philosophy, it demands you do the math backwards. It asks you to look at the hours it took to get that money. That's the real asset, the thing you actually surrendered, the money in your account.
It's just the receipt.
It's just the receipt that proves the transaction happened.
I think the source just...
It
nails the practical side of this. We all feel that little rush, right? That momentary sense of progress when the paycheck hits the bank.
Of course. A sense of relief.
A huge sense of relief. We hit a goal, but we are trained to completely ignore the non-monetary debits, the things we lost to get it.
What it actually costs.
What it actually costs. We forget the cost in our own energy, the cost in stress, the price of being irritable and exhausted when we finally walk through the door at home. The true price tag is the commute. It's running on empty. It's missing the chance to just sit and do nothing. Or, and this is the most painful one, it's the family moments that just vanished while we were chasing that receipt.
And that's exactly why this view is so critical for the average person who trades their time. We aren't, playing with abstract capital that just compounds on its own in the background.
No, our currency is our life.
It's concrete and it's diminishing. And the credit edge philosophy is really insistent on this point. All that complicated financial language.
Credit scores, interest rates.
Compounding interest, economic cycles, all of it. It says it has to be mapped back to these concrete, real-life things. If a financial idea doesn't connect directly to the urgency of a bill you can't pay or the exhaustion you feel after a double shift.
Or just the sadness of missing another weekend.
Exactly. Then it's functionally irrelevant to this philosophy. It's just noise.
So that reframing, it demands a completely different kind of calculation. The source actually calls it time accounting.
Or moral accounting.
Moral accounting. I like that. So we have to constantly ask ourselves this guiding question, what am I really trading when I accept this job or when I buy this thing?
What do you lose? Not just what do you earn?
Exactly. What do I lose? We have to start measuring the value of our choices against our own peace, against our time, not just against dollars and cents.
And this is how we start to see the larger system at play. The source observes that the system is, it's expertly designed to teach us to measure our success in money, never in time.
Right. Always chase the bigger salary.
Always. Because the higher wage is the metric for advancement. We're trained to think about progress vertically. How high can my income go? Rather than horizontally.
Meaning, how much of my own time can I control?
How much time sovereignty do I actually have? That's the horizontal axis that we're taught to ignore.
And you can see it in the language we all use. The essay points this out so clearly. Think about it. Nobody goes to work or posts on social media bragging that they successfully, protected their mental peace this week.
Or that they got an extra 6 hours of uninterrupted rest.
Or that they were actually present with their kids for a whole evening. No. What do we brag about? Overtime, side hustles, hitting some new income milestone.
The hustle culture.
It's all about the hustle. The entire focus is tied to the receipt, the money, and it completely ignores the foundational resource that was sacrificed to get it.
So we end up celebrating the symptom of success, which is a higher income, while we're all collectively ignoring the fact that we're accelerating the depletion of the actual resource.
Our irreplaceable time.
And when you start seeing money strictly as stored labor that could be borrowed, lent, and only paid back with future hours, it forces this inescapable sense of accountability.
Yeah.
Every financial decision suddenly becomes, by definition, a life decision. And it costs a piece of your one finite existence.
So moving into the dissection part of this, the source really confronts the big illusion that makes this whole system work.
Right.
The illusion of infinite time. It says, on paper, time feels infinite. We treat it like a renewable resource. But every choice has a hidden cost.
That illusion, that's the foundational danger, isn't it? It's the little lie we tell ourselves.
I'll make up for it later.
I'll rest on the weekend. I'll reconnect with my family on vacation. We believe we can always defer the consequences. But the text asks, what breaks that idea in real life?
What shatters the illusion?
What shatters it is the irreversible nature of a moment that's gone. The simple, brutal fact that the hours you give to your job cannot be spent anywhere else. That trade is absolute. It's final.
And the source, again, it doesn't leave this in the abstract. It grounds these hidden costs in these really concrete, almost visceral examples. It says, so plainly, the energy we use to chase income cannot be used to build peace.
That's a one-for-one trade.
It is. It describes the cost as this slow erosion of your life's quality. The week just disappears while you're chasing bills. And what's the result? Meals missed. Stories you never hear. That's the price.
Wow. Stories you never hear.
Yeah. Let's just break down the moral calculus there. Say you get offered a promotion, it adds, 10 hours to your work week, and your salary goes up by $10,000.
On paper, that's a great deal.
On paper, it's a win. It's a fantastic financial return.
Right.
But the hidden cost is those 10 hours you no longer have to relax or to exercise or just to connect with someone.
Those are the non-monetary debits.
Right. And the essay forces you to ask the hard question. How much is that peace, that connection, worth to you in dollars? If it's worth more than that 10 grand, you've actually taken a loss. You're poorer, not richer.
And then we have to ask the next question, which is why? Why does the system encourage this trade over and over again?
Right. Who benefits?
Who benefits? The source notes that systems profit when we are in perpetual motion, always producing, always consuming, constantly preparing for a freedom that, as the essay warns, rarely arrives.
It's designed to keep us busy.
It's designed to keep us perpetually busy enough to survive, but never free enough to actually stop needing to trade our time. That constant activity, that state of trading hours just to get by, that's the engine of the whole thing.
So the guiding question about these trade-offs, it becomes incredibly sharp. It's not just, can I afford this? It's how many hours of my life will this choice cost?
And you have to measure it against something intangible, like your connection with your family.
Yeah.
Or just your own emotional peace.
So when we decide to buy a bigger house or finance a newer car, we're not just calculating the cost in dollars, we have to calculate the cost in lost sleep, the increased anxiety about making those payments.
The mental energy that gets drained away, energy that you could have used to be fully present with the people you love.
And that trade, once you make it, it's irreversible.
It's done.
When we commit our future time for money today, we're accepting a very specific final rate of return on our life. And if that return is a slightly bigger bank account, but the risk is the erosion of our health and the loss of our peace.
Then the source insists you have to weigh that return rigorously against that diminishing, irreplaceable resource. It's a moral calculation. It's not just a financial one.
Okay, this next part is where the philosophy, for me at least, it just provides so much clarity. It strips away all the confusing financial jargon, and it shows how it's directly linked to our actual life decisions.
Yeah, this is the practical core of it.
The essay states this clear principle. Every financial concept has a twin in how we live. Let's really dedicate some time to breaking down these financial twins.
Okay, let's start with the big one, credit. In finance, we're told credit measures a lender's trust in your ability to repay.
Right, your credit score.
Your score. But the credit edge philosophy, it expands that. It says credit actually measures the trust you have in your future self's time to pay that debt back.
Oh, that's a different way to look at it.
It's a huge shift. When you borrow $1,000 today, you are essentially writing a check that your future self has to cash. It's backed by the collateral of, say, 100 or 150 future hours of your stored labor.
And that's a really powerful analogy. Because if that future self is already exhausted,
Already running on empty.
already struggling just to meet the demands of today, then that trust you're placing in them it's fundamentally misplaced, isn't it?
It's a bad bet. That loan repayment isn't just a number on a statement anymore. It becomes this crushing burden on a future version of you who's already depleted. The debt is, in essence, a pre-selling of your future energy.
You've sold it before you've even made it.
Exactly. And when that trust fails, when your future self can't cover the check, the system doesn't just repossess the car or the TV.
No.
It seizes your time. It comes after your time, through collection calls, through stress, through added fees and legal obligations. And then you're forced to trade more hours, often under much more pressure, just to service the debt you took on in a moment of, well, impatience or need.
Which brings us to the next twin, interest. The philosophy says interest measures patience.
Or the lack of it.
Or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Right. Interest is the price we pay for wanting something now. It's the cost of immediate gratification instead of waiting and saving for it.
And the essay makes this connection painfully real, especially when it focuses on what you could call necessity debt.
Like borrowing for groceries.
Borrowing for groceries or to cover rent until you get paid. In that case, the interest isn't just a percentage. The text says it is borrowing from future sleep, future peace, future weekends.
Wow.
The urgency of today is paid for directly by the stress of tomorrow.
Let's really explore that metaphor. So if you use a high-interest credit card, maybe 25% APR, to buy something that isn't essential, you're really just purchasing convenience. That 25% interest rate, it's not just an abstract number. It translates directly into the percentage of your future hours that will be dedicated purely to servicing the impatience of your past self.
It's a tax on your lack of patience.
Ata.
And your future self has to pay it with their life, with their time.
Okay, but hold on, let's ground this. If we're focusing on the working class, on people living paycheck to paycheck, isn't that impatience often rooted in pure necessity, not poor choices?
That's a critical question.
I mean, you don't have the luxury of patience to save up for a car repair if you need the car to get to work tomorrow. You have to borrow now just to survive. How does the philosophy account for that necessary impatience?
And that is a point that requires grounding this whole philosophy in reality, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The source material recognizes that the system itself often forces impatience.
It creates the crisis.
Creates the crisis. For the person living hand-to-mouth, the only difference between low-interest debt, what you might call strategic leverage, and high-interest survival debt is the severity of the lien placed on their future time.
It's just a question of how bad the terms are.
Exactly. The credit edge doesn't moralize the choice. It doesn't say you're a bad person for taking on debt. It merely quantifies the cost in hours. Survival debt simply confirms that the system is already leveraging your future labor, and it's demanding immediate payment in the form of your peace and your effort.
Which leads us straight to the third twin, risk. In this philosophy, risk measures awareness.
Right, and not awareness of, complex market conditions. It's not about that at all.
No. It's awareness of the total cost. The essay insists that we have to look past the dollar amount on the loan and see the fundamental time commitment that's required to service that debt.
So if you take on a, say, $20,000 loan, the first thing you have to do is translate it
Into hours.
into hours. How many net hours of my stored labor must I commit to pay this off completely? If you earn, say, $20 net per hour, that debt requires 1,000 hours of your life.
1,000 hours. 1,000 hours. If you don't do that calculation, you are unaware of the true risk to your life. The risk of sacrificing 1,000 hours of potential peace or family time or just rest.
Let's use a contrast here. Someone might take out a $400,000 mortgage at 3% interest. That might cost hundreds of thousands in interest over 30 years.
A huge number.
A huge number, but it requires a consistent, predictable stream of labor hours, and it's often building an asset that appreciates. Now, contrast that with a $5,000 high-interest credit card debt.
Mathematically, it's tiny in comparison.
Tiny, but the erratic compounding, the high stress of the repayment structure. It places a far greater risk on your current awareness and your emotional stability. The financial risk is smaller, but the risk to your time and your peace is exponentially greater because of the demands of servicing that volatile debt.
And that's the definition of leverage in this context. A loan is a lien against your future stored labor. The banker knows you must show up for your shift next week because that money is already spoken for.
It's already been spent. It's already been spent, which brings us back to that guiding question. Who benefits when we take on debt that we have to repay with our future hours?
It's not the debtor.
It's never the debtor, it's the creditor, the person on the other side of this trade of stored time. They are guaranteeing their own future by locking in the certainty of our future labor.
And the essay kind of zooms out at this point to look at the macro perspective. It observes that the markets are only a reflection of our collective behavior. Fear, hope, and time expressed in numbers.
Which is such a great way to ground it. It takes this thing that feels so alienating and abstract, the stock market, and it brings it right back to human experience. Every tick up or down is just the collective pulse of millions of people.
Expressing hope for the future or fear of scarcity.
All just translated into numbers. So now when we shift from talking about debt to talking about investment, the focus usually moves to returns, right? How fast can we make our money grow?
Yeah, the percentage gain.
But again, the credit edge philosophy demands that we pivot. It asks us to focus instead on the time variable itself.
And the source states this really powerful, simple truth. In markets, time is the most expensive variable.
It's the one thing you can't buy more of.
Right. Every return, every yield, every single compounding effect. It's all fundamentally measured by duration. How long are you willing to wait? The investor who really understands time knows that it provides the buffer you need to absorb the ups and downs,
Volatility.
to absorb the volatility and eventually harvest the yield.
And this leads directly to the core definition of wealth that's presented in the text. And it completely changes the goal. It says, wealth is not built by chasing returns. It is built by respecting duration.
Respecting duration.
That respect for duration requires a profound sense of patience. Impatience makes you chase short-term gains. It makes you sell low when you panic. But patience, that respect for duration, it turns volatility into an opportunity because you're willing to just hold on through the dips.
And the beauty of this philosophy is how perfectly that symmetry applies to life. It's not just about money.
Not at all.
If you respect duration when you're building a skill, you're not looking for the instant payoff. You're just committing to years of steady practice. All those small incremental efforts, they compound. They compound into mastery.
But if you rush it,
If you rush the process, if you chase the quick result, you almost always introduce volatility and failure, whether that's in your career or just, your emotional life.
okay, so let's contrast the investor mindset with the worker mindset through this lens of duration. The investor's using capital, right? And capital is designed to compound exponentially over time.
Right.
The worker, however, is trading time itself. And that resource, time, is subject to probably the most sobering concept in the entire essay.
I know the one you're talking about.
It says, time, unlike capital, does not compound. It only diminishes.
And that is the central paradox. We have to spend some time on this. Capital grows exponentially. The asset that most of us trade our own life is linear. It's shrinking towards zero.
We give up a diminishing asset in exchange for an asset capital that is designed to grow infinitely. That's the trade.
Once you see that, it should fundamentally change every decision you make.
It has to.
If you're 25 years old, maybe you can afford a costly mistake in time. A couple of years in a job you hate. The duration of your remaining time feels vast.
It feels infinite.
It feels infinite. But for the 55-year-old worker who is still trading hours for survival, 2 years in a job they hate is a massive percentage loss of their remaining healthy, productive time. Their stored labor is rapidly depreciating. Their duration is drastically shorter.
The danger then is, it's profound. The text says, every hour we surrender without reflection feeds someone else's compounding.
That's a heavy line.
It is. That surrender is required to service your debt, to maintain a lifestyle, to chase some future goal. But what we're actually doing is fueling a machine that grows exponentially, while our own primary fuel tank just dwindles linearly.
Which brings up a really critical question. If the arithmetic is so clear, if it so obviously favors the patient long-term view of respecting duration, why do most people, especially those of us trading hours, act so impatiently? Why are we always chasing the quick return?
It's because necessity will always override arithmetic. When the rent is due this week or the car breaks down today, you can't wait for long-term compound gains. You have to generate immediate receipts. You need money now to survive.
So it creates what the source implies is a kind of a necessary impatience.
A necessary impatience, exactly.
Yeah.
We are conditioned by our circumstances to prioritize immediate monetary returns because our immediate survival literally depends on it. And that forces us to ignore the diminishing nature of our own time.
We're constantly just trying to stay afloat.
Constantly paying down the debt of yesterday's expenses with tomorrow's irreplaceable hours. And that immense pressure, it dictates impatience. It has to.
So this all leads to the culmination of this awareness, the recognition of what the source calls the quiet paradox. And this is the ultimate trap for the working individual. It states, we exchange our time to survive, yet survival often demands more time in return.
And that cycle, that's the core mechanism that keeps the whole system running. We're sold this narrative our whole lives, right?
The dream.
The dream. Work hard, save more, invest wisely, and one day, rest will come. You'll get to retire and enjoy it.
But the essay notes, the goalpost moves each year, and the rest never comes.
It never comes. As soon as your income goes up, so does everything else. Inflation, new systemic demands, lifestyle creep. It all ensures that your survival still requires the same, or often an even greater, volume of your labor.
The system never gives you permission to step off the treadmill.
Never.
And this whole structure is built on this one massive illusion that money will one day buy back the time we spent getting it.
The great lie.
It is. And the source is just, it's unsparing. It rejects this idea completely. It says, you always pay in hours first, paychecks come later, time lost can't be found.
It's not recoverable. It is a sunk cost.
It's a sunk cost. The consequence of believing in this illusion is that we fundamentally misplace our tools and our goals. The source argues. We treat time as a tool for money instead of money as a tool for time.
We have it completely backward. Time should be the goal. Sovereignty over your own existence. Money should just be the tool you use to buy back the hours you need. Hours for peace, for connection.
And this misplaced priority, it leads us to constantly delay the only yield that actually matters.
Peace.
Peace. We delay the quiet moments, the connections with people we love, the simple joys of a slow evening. We tell ourselves these are luxuries.
Things you earn for later.
Things to be afforded later after you finally reach that moving goalpost. But the essay defines this delay as an immediate liability. It's not a future plan. It's a current debt. It says, every moment we delay peace for later, we pay interest on a debt that cannot be refinanced.
Yeah, the reason you can't refinance that debt is because the collateral, your remaining time, is constantly diminishing.
It's always going down.
You can't acquire more time. You can only spend what's left. You can't go to the bank and get a lower interest rate on delayed joy. The cost of postponing your own peace is paid every single day in more stress, more anxiety, and eventual burnout.
So if it's not about getting more wealth, what is true financial freedom, according to this philosophy? The credit edge definition is, it's so profoundly simple, and it's focused on the real currency.
What is that?
True financial freedom is not about earning faster. It is about slowing the burn rate of our time.
Slowing the burn rate,
Yeah.
not increasing the income.
Exactly.
And real freedom, then, is found in how much of our time still belongs to us. It's not measured by the net worth figure on some statement.
Yep.
It's measured by the level of sovereignty you have over your own daily schedule. That control, the power to say no, the ability to choose rest, the capacity to just be present, that is the slowing of the burn rate. And that is the ultimate yield of this entire philosophy. Okay, so we've dissected this philosophy pretty deeply. Now we have to bring it all back. We have to translate this awareness into something immediate, something practical.
Into action and comfort.
Action and comfort for the individual whose time is constantly under attack.
The first step, and it's probably the most painful but also the most rewarding, is to go back to that idea of time accounting.
The moral counting.
Every single expense has to be measured in hours, not dollars. We have to stop asking, can I afford the $500? And start asking, can I afford the 50 hours of my life this is going to cost me?
And in this system, awareness is your protection. The text says, awareness begins when we see what the system hides.
And what does it hide?
It hides the diminishing nature of your time. It hides the emotional cost of delaying your peace. It hides the fact that it's leveraging your future labor. And just having this awareness, this clarity on the true cost, that's the first dividend.
I love that. The first dividend.
It doesn't pay you in cash, but it pays you in clarity. And that clarity is what shields you from the traps of necessary impatience and all the manufactured needs the world throws at you.
And what does that clarity ultimately yield? What's the final return? According to the source, it's peace.
This peace.
Peace is found in a quiet dinner, a walk, not hustle, not achievement. It's found in the mundane moments that you successfully protect.
And it's a yield that compounds, not through the market, but through daily discipline. Moment by moment, it says. It's the intentional choice every day to prioritize your sovereignty over your income.
So let's consolidate the major conclusions here. The big takeaways from this philosophy that help you translate awareness into action.
Okay. First, time is currency. That's the core trade.
Second, awareness is protection. You have to see the hidden costs.
Third, discipline is growth. And that's the discipline to protect your time, to hold that boundary.
Fourth, peace is the yield. That's the ultimate compounding return.
And finally, fifth, legacy is the return. And legacy isn't your bank account. It's the quality of life you lived and the memories you left behind, not the quantity of receipts you collected.
That definition of discipline is so important here. The discipline to protect your time.
It's everything.
It's the discipline to say no to demands that just steal your hours without giving you any commensurate value in your life or your peace. It's the active refusal to let someone else's compounding feed off of your diminishing resource.
And that leads you, the listener, directly to the practical application of this moral accounting. You have to use this framework to evaluate every major choice you make.
Is this choice maximizing my personal time and my peace?
Or is it maximizing my income at the expense of my life? That simple accounting question shifts the entire goal. It shifts away from just acquiring more receipts and toward acquiring greater personal sovereignty, greater stillness.
We started this whole deep dive by establishing that time is the first currency. And I think we ended by understanding that the most valuable investment we can ever make is it's non-monetary. It's invisible on any statement.
But you feel it.
But you feel it profoundly in the quiet moments of your life. The source leaves us with this final, really powerful reflection. Real freedom is time with people you love. Moments that never show up on a pay stub. That's the investment that grows.
And if the great lesson here is the diminishing, irreversible nature of our time, then the ultimate return is simply awareness. It's, as the text says, knowing it before it is gone. We spent this entire deep dive analyzing the collateral we trade away, our future hours, and our peace. And that raises one last important question for you to explore, for you to answer for yourself.
What's that?
If time really does only diminish, and if the cost of delaying your own peace is truly an unrefinanceable debt, what essential, non-monetary commitment must you stop delaying, starting now? What piece of your irreplaceable time will you reclaim today?
Thanks for listening to The Credit Edge. Remember, your time matters. See you next episode.